Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining me. So my last video with 3,000 views so far has about 900 likes, which is a massive amount of likes to have for a video with that number of views. So thank you very much for coming through for me in that way, you guys. It means a lot to me. And yeah, so this video I want to discuss the third eye, changing your perception on what the third eye is and how to use the third eye. So in my sessions with people, we often get on the topic of third eye activation, because most of the sessions are based around spiritual growth. And I usually get two answers. I get the perspectives from the guides on how the third eye is working, and then I get the perspective from the body on how the third eye is working. And rarely do those opinions line up together. So perspective-wise, many of you are already doing so much with the third eye, but you don't really realize it. Or, when I'm in session with somebody, when we're talking about the third eye, I ask, how do you feel like your third eye is functioning? Do you feel like the third eye is open? Do you feel like it's kind of open? Do you feel like it's closed? And I would say probably 9 times out of 10, that person will say that their third eye is just completely shut down and dormant and not functioning at all. And that's never what the guides are saying behind the scenes. So when someone has that perspective, I see that as a huge window of opportunity for me to change that perspective, and that will open a doorway for them to start using the third eye more productively or more consciously. So I ask, how's the third eye functioning? And they'll say, my third eye is completely not working. And I'll say, oh, do you dream? And they'll say, well, usually, yeah, sometimes. Can you think about a memory and relive that memory? Usually, yes, I can do that. Can you visualize an apple and hold that image in your mind? Usually, yeah. Can you see a color and hold that color in your mind? And more often than not, the answer to each one of those questions from someone who said their third eye was not working is yes, 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 yes. So what does that tell you about their third eye? It tells you that there's filters that are downplaying how the third eye is functioning. We can give that filter the name, let's call it what it is, the ego. So the ego will take images or messages or revelation coming through the third eye, and they'll take credit for it. The ego will take credit for it. The ego will diminish the experience. The ego will revert to the survival separation based programming of what that imagination or that imagery is. So how do you change that? And how do you get to the point where the images that you're seeing in your mind become automatic, or they generate themselves, or there's a certain production that happens that is outside of your efforts being given? Well, pretty much how to do that is to use the concept of fake it until you make it. Meaning that you're using the imagination, you're practicing using the imagination without filters, or you're simulating using the imagination and the third eye in the way that you think someone who uses the third eye, has their third eye open, would use it. So you are slowly practicing and getting yourself used to the process of clearing those filters before you start your meditations, before you start creating imagery in the mind. And slowly what you see in the third eye starts to become automatic. There becomes less and less effort behind you having to be the one who creates and holds that imagery. You got to understand that the third eye is programmed to function in this place. So if you're showing up to use the third eye through layers of density and filters, the third eye is going to respond accordingly. If you start to use the third eye beyond those limitations and those filters, then the third eye completely knows what to do, and it starts to take over, starts to bring things to your attention that were outside of your awareness before. It starts to translate downloads and messages from your guides and your cosmic selves. You got to understand that the third eye is alive, well, and consciousness, and capable of gauging where you are consciously and knows exactly how to respond to that. This is why the Kryon Circle of 12 is so successful at activating and opening third eyes and getting people familiar and integrated into the multidimensional experience. That is why Kryon spends the first 2, 3, or 4 minutes of every meeting he has talking about the process of coming through for Lee Carroll, his partner, the first time. Because Lee made a point to remove those filters before he could translate the energy that was coming through for him. So his third eye, the portal of communication, recognized what was happening in that moment and assisted him in bringing forward the revelation that, there is more than what he knows, and he has access to that information through following a certain process. So my advice to you would be to start to use the imagination to create as you will, as you please. Start to use it and stretch it to its limits, even if you still feel like it's just you creating something in your imagination. If you do that enough times while following the right procedures before, which would be to personally address the ego, tell it can no longer be involved in this experience that you're about to take on, and then you proceed to do that over and over and over again, to the point where the ego steps aside automatically and your third eye is free to produce whatever imagery is appropriate for you to experience at that time. Anyway, just thought I would bring that to your guys' attention. So one thing I do want to let you know about is I'm writing articles a couple times a week, and I'm posting those on my website, and the very first one is posted now. Link in the description. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you next time.